we have a purpose here, and it is, to be a force for good. And obviously, my area of focus is the community. It's focused on, the state and that nature. But we can be that force by building those relationships, by being a trusted partner.
You're listening to NDWorks, a podcast for the Notre Dame campus community, produced by the Office of Internal Communications. We're the team that brings you NDWorks Weekly, NDWorks Quarterly, The Week at ND, and a passion for sharing clear, concise, and interesting information with faculty and staff of the University of Notre Dame. I'm Natalie Davis Miller, Managing Editor for NDWorks, and I'm glad you're listening. Our guest today is Tim Sexton, Associate Vice President for Public Affairs. Tim focuses on state and local government relations, as well as community relations, serving as a primary liaison between Notre Dame and community leaders. Tim has been involved with many projects and initiatives in South Bend, including the recently opened Ling Trail and the inauguration build. Tim received the university's Presidential Leadership Award in 2024 and the MLK Drum Majors Award for Service in 2019 for his volunteerism in the community. The ink has yet to dry on his latest accolade, inclusion in the Indiana 250. The Indianapolis Business Journal describes it as a list of the state's most influential and impactful leaders across business, philanthropy, the arts, government, and not-for-profits. These men and women are making a difference locally, regionally, and across the state. Wow, Tim, it's as if IBJ knew you were going to be talking to us. The timing could not be better for this. Congratulations on this honor, and welcome to the NDWorks Podcast.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here with you, Natalie.
So you attended Notre Dame, correct?
Correct.
Okay, tell us about your degree here, your classes. Your dad taught here?
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
Was he teaching here when you attended?
Yes. Very much so, yes.
And did you take any of his classes?
I did in graduate school, not as an undergrad, but I did in graduate school. I took one.
Okay, so what is your undergrad degree and what is your graduate degree?
So my undergraduate degree was in sociology, and I had a minor in business. And then I went into what is now the M&A program, the Masters of Nonprofit Administration. And I went into it immediately after graduating undergrad. The very following semester, I started graduate school. And I went part-time for the M&A program. But I did have my dad for a course there. It was on fundraising. And he only taught, I think it maybe been the first class. And then he had leaders within his division each take a class and educate us. And I think I did okay in that class, Natalie. I think I had to work hard because my dad had put it to me that if you're taking my class, you better put in 100% effort. And I did so, and I believe I got an A.
Okay.
But I did work hard.
You probably had to put in about 110%.
I was going to say that, Natalie. You're absolutely right. It was probably 150%. I was more prepared than anybody else walking into that classroom because the last thing I wanted was one of his colleagues to go and say, hey, Tim's sloughing in class and isn't putting forth the effort. Okay,
so I heard a story. So did your dad wink at you in class?
No,
he didn't wink at you.
No, thankfully he didn't wink at me. My dad, my oldest niece, Jacqueline Cronk, had my dad when she was an undergrad here, and it was a class of about 300 students. It was an intro to management class, and when she had indicated to him that she was going to be taking his class, he said, okay, you're going to be in the front row and the class starts at 8:00 in the morning. And if you're not there, guess who's going to know you're not there? Your mom. So he kept her tight in that regard. But every day he would walk into class and walk up on the stage and look down at her and give her a quick wink. And after this happened for a couple of weeks, one of her fellow students came up and said, I've been noticing Dr. Sexton winks at you when he comes into class. You need to report him. You need to tell somebody because that's inappropriate. He shouldn't be doing that. And my niece finally, turned to him and said, he's actually my grandfather. And yeah, he loves me very, very much, type of thing. And the guy's like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Please don't tell him I said that.
That's sweet.
Yes.
That's sweet. You're married.
Correct.
And your wife is?
We just celebrated 34 years of marriage. My wife is Tanya Sexton. Tanya Sheets was her maiden name. She and I were high school sweethearts. And we were reminiscing. We've been married 34 years, but we've been actually together for over 40.
So where are you both from originally?
We're both originally from South Bend.
Okay.
My parents moved from Columbus, Ohio when my mom was expecting me. And my dad was hired to be a faculty member in the School of Business, College of Business. And so I was the first one born of my siblings in South Bend. I have two younger brothers that were born here in South Bend as well.
Okay.
And Tanya was born and raised here in South Bend too.
Okay. So tell me, you have children?
I have 4 kids ranging in age from 32 down to 25. Girl, boy.
Okay.
And we're my wife and I are extremely blessed. We have our 4th grandchild was born not even 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
So yes, we have 3 little granddaughters and a grandson now. And again, we're just very fortunate, very blessed.
Okay. So do you have triplets?
We have, there's
twins?
A set of twins in there.
Okay.
Yep, set of twins. They're the oldest. Yes. Navy and Collins are the oldest. Then we've got Goldie, and now we've got Trip.
Trip?
Yes.
I like that.
He's the 3rd in the family. So his official name is Robert Glenn Leonard III.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your family. I know that there was a recent WNIT documentary on your father, William or Bill Sexton.
Bill Sexton.
Bill Sexton. And I watched it, and it was so interesting.
Great.
Particularly when they talked about his dad. And maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yes. So, my dad grew up in Columbus, Ohio. He has 1 brother. And my grandfather, Frank Sexton, was a professional wrestler.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was his profession. And he wrestled all over North America, but then also wrestled over in Europe and South Africa and that. And if you get on Google and put Frank Powerhouse Sexton in there, Powerhouse was his stage name. You would get a number of images of him back in the day. There's even some videos actually out there of him wrestling. He was a big guy. He grew up on a farm. He was one of 11. He had 10 brothers and a sister, and he was the youngest of the group. And he was attending Ohio State and was recognized by a promoter. He had some good looks and had a heck of a physique. And so talked my grandfather into giving it a whirl, and that's what he did. He did for almost 20 years of his life was professional wrestling.
So he was a heavyweight
champion. Yeah,
he
was at a period of time. He was, and it was similar to, I guess, what you would say the WWF is today. But yeah, there was a period of time when he was the world wrestling champion. Yeah,
that is such a cool story.
Yes, and for my dad and his brother, they both actually wrestled as well
at Ohio State.
My dad wrestled heavyweight at Ohio State. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
And what about you? Did you play any
No,
sports?
I didn't wrestle. None of us got that wrestling bug. None of us did, and I think my dad was happy about that. Growing up, I did. I with 4 brothers, just about anything. Whether it was a tennis racket, it was a golf club, if it was a football, basketball, baseball, we were absolutely game for it. In high school, I did play baseball. In high school. Coming to Notre Dame, I didn't play any sports at Notre Dame, but, I lived in Morrissey Hall. And obviously within the dorm, there were a lot of opportunities to engage in sports, whether it was inter-hall football, inter-hall basketball, things of that nature. Baseball, I played baseball in high school, I played inter-hall baseball for Morrissey.
So your father got his PhD, was it from Ohio State?
Yeah, my dad had all his degrees from Ohio State.
Okay, yes. But still a big Notre Dame man. Right.
Absolutely. Through and through. And so I remember back in the mid-90s, Notre Dame played Ohio State in football. And it was the first time we had played Ohio State since the late 30s in football. And a number of people knew that my dad was, Ohio State guy through and through. So they were asking him, who are you cheering for? Who are you cheering for? And his quick response was, I got to cheer for the team that's putting forth my paycheck, kind of as a joke. But he had, obviously, he grew up in Columbus, and went to Ohio State. So he was probably 25, 26 years old when they moved to South Bend. And so they lived, my dad passed at the age of 85. The great majority of his life was here.
Wow.
He worked for over 45 years. I think it was close to 48 years, almost 50 years here for the University of Notre Dame. So you cut him. It was blue and gold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in your office.
Yes.
In the main building.
Yes.
And on your wall is a photo of two presidents, right?
You have actually it is on the left over there is Father Monk Malloy when he was president of the university, handing my dad an honorary degree, and that would have been probably around 2001, 2002. When my dad retired from administration. My dad continued to teach for another close to 15 years. And I believe that's the chair of the board standing to my dad's right.
Okay.
Which would have been Pat McCartan, I believe.
And so he got that.
He did.
Domer degree.
He did. He got that honorary degree, and it meant the world to him, meant the world to my mom as well, just for all the years that my dad had put in at the university in an administrative capacity. And we were all his kids were there, and a number of his grandchildren were there in support of that day. And yeah, it's a special picture for me.
In addition to this, and I know he was loved and appreciated by so many here at the university and in the community, but I understand that he had a great working relationship and friendship with Father Hesburgh. And I think you had some time around him too in your youth, correct?
Well, we were fortunate just because of the relationship my dad had with Father Hesburgh that we were able to spend time with him. I believe my dad became vice president of university relations around 1982-ish. And so, and Father Hesburgh retired in 1987. So they had 5 years together where my dad reported up to Father Ted. Once Father Ted retired, though, my parents' relationship with him even grew stronger. He would come over for dinner. They would go out to dinner on a regular basis. They would go to movies together.
That's cool.
Well, I do remember there was a movie called The Mission, which was a very, very powerful movie. Robert De Niro was in it. Jeremy Irons was in it. And a very, very powerful movie. And they had actually gone to the movie with Father Ted and Father Joyce. And when they walked out of the movie, and again, my mom's wiping away the tears because it was a very emotional movie, Father Ted looked over and they have Platoon. Hey, what do you think? A double feature. And they went right in and went to Platoon.
Did your mom go?
My mom and dad both. The four of them. They went in and did a double feature. But if you've seen those two movies, those are heavy. Powerful, heavy movies. But yes, so I can't tell you. We were so fortunate, Natalie. Father Hesburgh would come over to our house for dinner. It might be Thanksgiving, and he'd come over for dinner and say mass in my parents' family room for all of us. And
that's beautiful.
Convene to the dining room and break bread with him. And honestly, it was just the stories that we were always able to hear from him and his experiences and that in life. And yeah, we were very, very lucky in that regard.
I think I saw a photo of you as a younger man fishing.
Oh.
On a boat.
Yes.
And I think Father Tip may have been on the same boat with you.
I had the privilege a couple of times of being out on a boat with my dad and Father Hesburgh. And those were incredible times. And Father at the time, his eyesight was starting to struggle. And so every now and then he'd need help, whether it was tying on a new lure or fastening some bait in some regard onto it. And he'd always, hey, Tim, help me out here. And, I was always, of course, willing and able to help him. He loved to fish. He was an outdoorsman.
Really?
And man, I tell you, he loved to fish. And it was a great passion of his. And, some of the pictures that if you go up into his office, you'll see him holding a muskie. And they were not small.
I was going to say, what's a muskie?
A muskie is kind of like the barracuda of fresh water.
Okay.
It's a large in the pictures that are displayed up in Father Hesburgh's office. You're looking at a 50, 55 inch fish that's, 25, 30 pounds. And with teeth like you wouldn't believe. Just think of a barracuda. And those were his passions. He loved to fish for muskie. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A lot of fun.
I'm still stuck at thinking about two priests going to a movie. I don't know why we don't think about things like that, but I think that's really cool.
Yes.
And good memories for you and for your siblings.
And it carried on, obviously, through the rest of Father Hesburgh's life. It definitely carried on. But it also, my parents had a very, very close relationship with Father Malloy and Father Bill Beauchamp. And they still, to this day, my mom gets together with the two of them for dinner and conversation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they both were featured in the WNIT special of my dad. And they did the premiere of that documentary over at the DeBarlo Performing Arts Center. And both Father Bill and Father Malloy came to the premiere, which was great to see the two of them.
Now, what's your mom's name?
My mom's name is Ann Sexton.
Okay,
yes.
You got to say hi to her.
Oh, she's
Ann,
right? Absolutely. And, she's obviously the matriarch of our family and provides such love and support for, over 60 came from my mom and dad, 60 in the line. And I think she's up to 20 great-grandchildren right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes.
I was going to ask that.
And I tell you, she's got every birthday down pat. And yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. They were one heck of a team here at the university.
You were born and raised here, but you didn't start your working career here at Notre Dame. And I see that you worked at St. Joseph Regional Medical Center. What was your role there? Okay.
So when I was a student here at Notre Dame, I actually was afforded an opportunity to do an internship with the CEO of St. Joseph's Hospital. I was basically his shadow for 3 months. I went to every meeting he went to, every discussion he was involved in. I sat in the room just listening. And afterwards, then I'd have the opportunity to ask questions of what was discussed. And it really got my interest in healthcare. Okay. And so my mom, Ann, was a nurse at St. Joe at the time. A close friend of my parents was a man by the name of Dave True, who was the first lay president of St. Joseph's Hospital. And he would often come over to the house, and I'd hear the conversations going on. And being my mom was a nurse, she'd vocalize when there were issues that the nurses needed to see addressed. But I got interested in it. And so I asked if I could do another internship at St. Joe. This one focused in human resources.
Okay.
And so I was afforded that opportunity. And when I graduated from Notre Dame, an opportunity arose within HR and they hired me, and it was great. It was a fantastic experience. I was initially hired, Natalie, in recruiting. So I was recruiting for a variety of positions at the hospital. Over time, I moved into a supervision role at the hospital in recruitment, and I was responsible for all the leadership positions, the hiring of directors and executive directors and things of that nature at the hospital. I then took over an area of employee relations. So any grievances that employees had and things would funnel through my particular department. Worked on process improvement initiatives at the hospital. I had a number of different roles there in my 19 years that I spent at St. Joe. The last 10, though, were all focused in fundraising and development. I ran the foundation of St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center. And I was fortunate to be in that opportunity during a period when they were moving the hospital from its location south of the campus over towards Mishawaka, and being involved with a phenomenal team there that raised the money to help with that transition into the new facility. And that's where I was actually working when this opportunity came about.
How did Notre Dame steal you away from there?
So, the university had just hired an individual by the name of Jan Botts, and she was the vice president of OPAC, Office of Public Affairs and Communications. And I was at a reception that Father John Jenkins had here in the main building. And Father made it a point to introduce me to Jan and said, I think it would be great for the two of you guys to spend some time together. She's trying to learn more about the community. You've been obviously very involved with the community with St. Joe. And so she and I met for breakfast shortly into 2009. It was January of 2009. And she talked about her vision for OPAC and specifically the area of public affairs and how federal relations was going to need to be a big key going forward. The two of us had a great conversation, had a wonderful breakfast, and I went back to work at St. Joe Regional Medical Center. And later in the day, I received a phone call from a dear friend of mine here at Notre Dame by the name of Lou Nani. And Lou said, hey, I understand you had breakfast with Jan Botts today. She talked to you about an opportunity she's creating here in public affairs. She'd really love to see you apply. And I'm like, Lou, I really don't want to be involved with federal relations. I said, I love going to DC. I love some of that stuff. I said, the politics of it, I really prefer not to go down that path. I've got a great job here at St. Joe and that. And he said, well, can I tell her that? And he said, absolutely. I said, absolutely. And so shortly thereafter, Jan called and said, why don't we get together again? And it led to the position of Associate Vice President of Public Affairs being created, and that position was posted. And she did have, in fact, I know of several of the candidates that had applied for that position, and God was looking down that particular day when she offered the position to me.
I think God had formed that position around you, given what I know of you.
That's very kind of, I'm turning red. I'm very, very kind of you to say, but it truly was a blessing. And I thank Jan regularly in prayer that she was so willing to offer this position to me.
Well, you are very well suited for it. And I see that when I'm around you at events, particularly at the Robinson Learning Center.
Sure.
Or CLC.
Yes.
And talk to me a little bit about your position, some of the things you've been involved in, most recently, the link. Oh. I had a chance to walk with you on that link.
Yes, that's true. We did. We did.
Tell our listeners a little bit about some of the projects you've been involved with.
Yeah, I'd love to. There's a handful of them that pop out that truly I was fortunate to be a part of a team. I want to emphasize that, a part of a team that worked on these particular projects. I think I was driving earlier today and I was coming down Douglas Road, and the area from 933 all the way up to Twickenham was a project that the university paid for. And it was to widen Douglas Road during that period in probably 2011, 2012-ish area. And just all of the public meetings that we had, I think we met with over 100 different community leaders, community residents during that period of time. And, I look back, and again, I mentioned this as a team effort. Doug Marsh, our former vice president and lead architect here on campus, was unbelievable to watch during that piece. I was meeting with our county officials, our county commissioners, our county council members, and things of that nature. But when we met with neighborhood residents, Doug was the guy on stage, and he was incredible. I think about the Notre Dame Turbo project down at the old Studebaker complex. And again, the team over in finance was incredible to work with in there. Rich Bellis, our associate VP over there. But then also we had our architect's office was very involved in that project. They were incredible. I was dealing with the city of South Bend, the officials at the city level and at the state level, but those guys were the ones that were really navigating a great deal of those projects. They just did the ribbon cutting down at Sites Park. And underneath Sites Park is the Notre Dame Hydro project. And that was I think one of the most challenging projects that I was ever involved in.
Why was it so challenging?
We had an apartment complex right there next to Sites Park, and there was parking that was going to be going away for those tenants. So we had to figure out how we were going to park those folks. At the same time, which is now the Cascade building, was being constructed. So we were constructing Notre Dame Hydro. So the complexity of navigating all these three was significant on a very limited parcel of land, right? So that was challenging. There were issues, we had to work with the city in regards to the wall down there that borders, of course, to the river. And it was an older wall, and there were some challenges in that regard. So there were just little hiccups that continued to prolong the process. And it took much longer than any of us had anticipated. One of the greatest parts about being a part of that project was working with Paul Kemp.
Oh.
Again, one of our associate vice presidents here at the university, and his creativity in problem solving was amazing. We had some legal issues that we had to contend with the city and with a couple of the partners that were involved in that particular business. John Lloyd, another gentleman in our general counsel's office, was fantastic. And again, it's these projects that, and I'll get to the trail here, but these projects that have given me to work with some of the most talented human beings I feel that are on this planet, definitely here on this campus, that are truly amazing. The link is another one, So I mentioned Doug Marsh's name earlier on. Doug worked closely with others on that particular project. The city was a great partner in that. Mayor Mueller, Eric Horvath, Jatin Kane, all were great partners in putting forth, a trail that all of us can be very, very proud of. The Visit South Bend, Mishawaka, that organization, and Jeff Darnicki. I mean, we're huge. We all three chipped in to pay the cost of this trail.
Okay, so can you talk about what that is for people who are not familiar with it?
When you're sitting at the corner of Notre Dame and Angela, and you are on the southeast corner, you can't miss it. It's the link has got a beautiful start to it, or end to it, depending on which way you begin on the trail, that leads you down Notre Dame Avenue. It's a beautiful trail, separate from the city. It's its own path. It's beautifully landscaped and signage all the way down, but it goes down Notre Dame Avenue, connects to South Bend Avenue, crosses over South Bend Avenue, right by the firehouse there as a landmark, and heads down to Hill Street on South Bend Avenue. Once you hit Hill Street, you'll go to the south on Hill Street. And again, you can't miss this with the signage and the beautiful flowers and other things that have been planted. It'll take you down to LaSalle, and it connects to an existing trail right there on LaSalle.
Okay.
So you're downtown. It's a little over 1.4 miles.
Oh, so not too far.
Not too far at all from that intersection of Notre Dame and Angela to downtown South Bend.
Okay. What's the purpose of it?
The purpose of the link is really just as the name says. It is a link between the university and downtown South Bend. We are forever tied, right? Mm-hmm. Our futures are forever tied. And we wanted to do something that really enhanced the neighborhood, enhanced a gem here in the city, which is the Northeast neighborhood. But then also, as Notre Dame continues to have a larger footprint in downtown South Bend, this is a connection point for that as well.
Okay, so I'm listening to what you're saying, and you've named a lot of key individuals here at Notre Dame. And we know that if Notre Dame's going to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to do it right. They're going to do it well. But I don't want to miss the community part. When you've talked about different things, you're always taking into account, as I understand it, and I'm not from here, I'm from Indianapolis, but I love the community factor, that relationship, because I don't know that every university does that. Yeah. We talk about that. You've heard that town gown relationship.
Mm-hmm. Sure, of course.
And you are from the town,
yes.
But you are steeped in Notre Dame because you work here and you went here.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? Where does that come from? Is that top down or?
No, that's a great question. And it is top down. And I think some of it too is just how we've witnessed how we want to be perceived, in this community as a partner, as somebody that's building strong relationships. I didn't reference the Notre Dame Boathouse. And your question here just kind of refreshed my memory to that. The Notre Dame Boathouse, we're building a boathouse on park land, on city park land. And city residents were concerned about that we were going to have such a significant footprint on a city park. And so they wanted to know, what was the benefit for us? And you guys doing this, what's the benefit for us? And so we started having neighborhood conversations. We work closely with South Bend Parks and Recreation to pull together community residents to hear, what did you want to see here at this particular site? In this particular case, we were tearing down an old South Bend Scholars building to build our new facility, and we were gifting our facility that we use for our crew team, both our women's varsity team and our men's club team, to the city for their future location. And it was a big step up for them in that regard. But that wasn't the only thing that the city residents wanted to see. We have poor docks, okay? We're going to update those docks, both not only for the crew team, but also for the community.
Okay.
We did that. Beautification of the park. We wanted to make sure that it looked really nice. So planting of trees, planting of flowers, and things of that nature occurred. One of the biggest things that the community wanted, they wanted a bathroom.
Oh, my
Parents
word.
were coming forth saying, we've got our kids down here, we're playing. Can the community go inside the boathouse and use the bathroom facilities in there? That wasn't something that we were comfortable with because, again, this was our women's crew team's boathouse, and not knowing who was coming in and out of the building would have been a concern for us. So if you go down to the boathouse, there are bathrooms now outside. If you're looking at it from the river on the far left corner, there's some bathrooms. And those are run by the city of South Bend.
I love that.
They open them up in the mornings just as they would any other public bathroom, and they maintain them and keep them clean. And it was a win-win, right? It was a way to find hearing the feedback, listening to the suggestions from the residents, and then acting on those suggestions. I think that's one of the things that we've done very well.
I think that's so important what you're saying, because we know that Notre Dame is a premier Catholic research university, but we also live here and work here in a city. Yeah. And I think you've gone a long way in your career here to developing those relationships.
We're
with
neighbors.
The community, right?
We're neighbors. We need to be a good neighbor. And, one of the things that I'm often out in the community, and when I am, I always promote, please, to the community residents, come to campus, walk the lakes. We've got a great little playground right over the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center. Utilize that playground. Attend our sporting events. We only require tickets for 4 sports on this campus, and that's football, men's and women's basketball, and hockey. The rest of these sporting events on our campus are free.
That's awesome.
And it's an opportunity for the local community. On Wednesday night of this week, we had an ice cream social for Indian Village. And you might not know where Indian Village is, but it is actually just to the north of campus. It borders the Warren Golf Course.
Okay.
Right? During football season, we park a lot of cars right across the street from that neighborhood. And as you can imagine, the traffic is a little bit challenging.
Right.
These are residents that need to get in and out of their neighborhood. So how do they do it? And so what we've done is we've created a very highlighted hang tag, very bright yellow hang tag that they hang from the rear view mirror. They turn on their hazards, and that notifies the police that are maintaining the roads right there and coordinating traffic that this is a resident of Indian Village that needs to either leave or go home, one of the two.
That's awesome.
And so we worked that process through, and I think this, I believe, was every other year we provide these hang tags and we have the ice cream social. I think this was our 6th ice cream social. But we've been meeting with those residents for the entire time that I've been here at Notre Dame. And it means a lot to them that we are concerned about how they're functioning in their neighborhood, based on some of the big things that are happening here on our campus. And so it's nice. We receive a lot of positive feedback from them for the effort that we make in that regard.
See, and we think it's just a football team that builds Notre Dame fans. You're out here doing it, Tim.
And again, Notre Dame Police. One of our folks on Notre Dame Police, Dean Chandler, who's just a fantastic guy. Everybody in the Indian Village knows who Dean Chandler is.
That's cool.
And that's a huge blessing for us to have that type of relationships that span just beyond my role here, but with others here at the university.
So what's been your favorite project?
Well, it actually started before I came to the university, and that was the Northeast Neighborhood Revitalization Organization. And it was an organization that was led by Notre Dame, and specifically Father Monk Malloy. And it was the creation of an organization to help work collaboratively with residents to revitalize the Northeast neighborhood. And so it actually started in 2000.
Oh, wow.
And I was representing St. Joe Regional Medical Center on the NNRO board in 2000. And fast forward, you drive in that neighborhood today and look back at pictures of what it looked like back in the year 2000. It's gone through a major, major transformation. That transformation would not have happened had it not been a collaborative effort between the university, the city of South Bend, other funding partners, but most importantly, the residents of the neighborhood. So one of our biggest detractors at the very beginning, Natalie, was a wonderful woman by the name of Marguerite Taylor.
We know her name.
We know her name. Everybody should know Marguerite's name. Her mother, Ronaldo Robinson, the Robinson Community Learning Center was named after Marguerite's mother. But we went to the very first meeting of this new board, this new created organization, and we were going to be talking about who's going to be the president, the vice president, secretary, and treasurer of this new board. And Marguerite piped right up, and she said, I can tell you right now, no one from Notre Dame is going to be one of those officers.
Wow.
No one. Notre Dame was the biggest funder of this new organization. And then she kind of looked over at me and she pointed at me and she goes, and no one from St. Joe either, because St. Joe at the time was talking about moving out of the neighborhood and no one knew what was going to happen once the hospital moved to that property, right? So fast forward, 2009, I'm asked to become the president of the NNRO board, and I'm working at St. Joe. And it was January I took over as president of the NNRO. In June, I'm offered the job here at Notre Dame and I start to work for Notre Dame. So I went to the very first NNRO meeting and I said, look, I understand that the residents have a problem with Notre Dame having a leadership role on the officers' lease. I'm more than happy to step down. Somebody else can move into that role. And it was Marguerite that spoke up. And she said, why are we even talking about this? There's no need to change anything. Everything's fine. Everything's good. So, again, I'm simplifying 9 years there, but there was an awful lot of collaboration, of talking with one another, breaking bread with one another. So you asked that's a project that I just, to this day, I'm very fortunate to have been a part of. But one of the highlights for me from that, in 2023, Marguerite Taylor received an honorary degree here at the University of Notre Dame. And I didn't realize how I would be impacted by that. But seeing her family here, supporting her from, I think it was California and maybe Arizona. Some of her grandchildren had come over for it. I was just so proud of her and thinking of the history, from where we were to where we were today.
Okay, so the Robinson Center, when I moved here, was in a different location than it is now.
Yes.
And were you part of that?
Yes. So the Robinson Community Learning Center, when it first started, I was not working at the university. It's going to be celebrating its 25th anniversary coming up here soon as well. And so it was located in an old Aldi's Goodwill facility. And it was limited in space, but man, we did the best we could with every nook and cranny we had there, from a programming perspective for babies to youth, to older adults, to teenagers, to older adults. I mean, everything we could possibly do in that building, we did. But when Eddy Street Phase 2 was coming through, there was the opportunity to relocate across the street and occupy some much, much larger space and actually have windows for the first time, which was a big deal. But then as well, theater is a big part, drama is a big part of our Robinson Community Learning Center, to have a black box theater and things of that nature. All were able to happen in this new facility. So actually through COVID, it was constructed, and on the tail ends of COVID, we opened that new facility, and it's truly been a gem. But the name Robinson Center followed right along with it to the new facility.
It's a beautiful facility.
It is, absolutely. Really is. And it's beautiful, of course, on its look and when you go inside, but it's beautiful mostly because of the people that are working there, that are coming and utilizing and taking advantage of the services that are there. We just had a prom. We just had a prom.
A senior prom, right?
Senior prom for our senior participants in the program. Luella Webster, who runs our senior programming, had this wonderful idea to put together a prom, and I think she had 40 or 50 seniors from the community dressed like they're going to Sunday church, and over at the Morris Inn in the ballroom.
Beautiful.
Yes. And Chef Calvin provided the meal, and just an unbelievable experience. So,
now,
some neat things happen there.
I've been in the presence of Luella and you, and I think she's someone that maybe the only person, I don't know, that really keeps you in check, Tim. You have a lovely relationship.
We have and it goes back some time, and we do tease one another. We like to poke fun at one another, and we never go too far. We keep it clean, but she knows I just love her to death. I really do. As a human being, she's one fantastic person that everybody should have the opportunity and the pleasure of getting to know.
I enjoy it whenever I get a chance to see her as well.
Yeah.
This is Natalie with a quick break. Join us on our next episode when we talk with university photographer Matt Kishore about his life, his career, and what his camera captures on campus. We will also talk about his new coffee table book, Love Thee Notre Dame, featuring iconic Notre Dame scenes. Now let's get back to Tim. So we've talked about the community, and you went to school here. And in the short time that I've worked here, there have been a lot of changes on campus. So tell me a little bit about what you've seen in the time, since you've been here. What's been like your favorite new thing or change, or your favorite old thing, your favorite spot on campus?
I've got favorite spots actually on campus, plural. So you got to remember, I'm 58 years old. I've lived here my whole life. And, when my dad was a faculty member here, I can remember being 3, 4, 5 years old over in Hayes Healy on a Saturday, running up and down the hallways there. As my dad was working, he wanted to get my siblings all out of the house, give my mom a break. I remember going to the Joyce Center, as a young kid, seeing some fantastic basketball games at the Joyce. We've watched this campus grow. I've watched this campus grow my entire life. And, when my dad was in development, there were obviously buildings on campus that he played a significant part in raising the money for those particular buildings. We mentioned the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center earlier. He was in that role back in the early part of the fundraising for that. So you asked, favorite spots on campus. My parents might have a bench here on campus, just outside the main building, right outside of La Fortune. There that means a lot to me, and it's one that anytime I walk by, I'll take a stop and just pray for the two of them and thank them for everything they've done for me in my life, and it's always an opportunity for thanks. One of my favorite spots, I mentioned this not too long ago to a few folks, is getting out of my parking spot, getting out of my car at my parking spot, and looking up at the dome.
Wow.
And I know that that's something that my dad did for the 20 years that he was here in administration. And I know how much it meant to him, and it means the same to me. We have a purpose here, and it is, to be a force for good. And obviously, my area of focus is the community. It's focused on, the state and that nature. But we can be that force by building those relationships, by being a trusted partner. And I always look up, and I just never want to take that for granted that we have that responsibility.
You mentioned your parking spot and thinking about your dad there. What of your personality, your work ethic, do you think that you got from your parents?
Oh, somebody said the other day to me that the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, I think was the comment that the person made to me. And I corrected them and said, the apple fell 2 miles away from the tree. I have a long way to go. My parents have set such a high bar. And I think my siblings would all say the same, which is we're always going to try and strive to catch them. We're never going to hit that mark. My dad had the ability, regardless of who it was, it could have been somebody that is extremely important here on campus that's taking care of the main building, sweeping the main building, cleaning the main building. That is an important role here. It could be a dean here on campus. It could be a CEO or a substantial potential benefactor. He treated everyone the exact same. And I think that was something that we all witnessed. And I think that's something that my siblings and I have tried to carry on. The other thing that my parents showed too was the importance of family. And I can't remember a single time where I wasn't participating in a sport or something where my parents weren't in the audience.
No, that's
that
nice.
Weren't there.
That's so important.
As busy as they were, my dad coached my baseball team growing up until I think I was 15 years old. My dad was our head coach, and he never missed a game, never missed a practice. Worked his tail off to be the best coach that he could be. And so I think all of us have tried to take some of those things on. I think that at the end of the day, the ultimate goal that my dad strived for was to be the best husband, best father, grandfather, great-grandfather that he could possibly be. And my mom still to this day achieves that daily. But that was probably his greatest success. Of all the successes he had, that was probably his greatest.
Let's talk about you in the same light then. What about you as a father, a husband, a grandfather? What are you bringing into your personal life with your family?
One of the things that, again, was exemplified by my mom and dad is you never doubted my dad's love for my mom. And I want to get emotional here. I hope that my kids, my 4 kids, and now that I have very, very young grandchildren, but they're going to be growing and that they always know that I've never given them any doubt of the love that I have for Tanya.
It's beautiful.
And she's my best friend, always will be. And again, God blessed the two of us by bringing us together. So I think that's one thing that my kids have to know how much that I adore her and respect her. Going back to my kids, I try to do what my dad did and be engaged with them. Get to, the things that were important to them and the things that they were participating in. Make sure to know how much it meant to us to see them engaging and being out there, but then also just seeing how they're interacting with others. My daughter Kaylee works locally for Logan, and she has a gift when it comes to working with individuals. And I look at my son Bailey, and he's a young father. He and his wife Allison they're young parents, and their sweetheart Goldie has been a little bit of a challenge, initially here. But the two of them, their patience and the love that they're portraying to her is great. My daughter Abby, she has a heart of gold, an absolute heart of gold, and she loves her siblings. She's probably the rock in the siblings of keeping in contact with them and keeping engaged with everything that they're doing. And she just moved from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, so we're fortunate to have her a little bit closer to home, and working for the Art Institute of Chicago. And then my youngest guy, Riley, he has a lot of the same heart as his mom, and has a lot of the same mannerisms as mom, which of course makes me just love him to death. But he shot us a note last night. He went to see the Broadway production of Les Mis down at the Morse Performing Arts Center. And, he was just so excited he's seen it before, but there's so much meaning in that production, and it means a lot to him. And I know it gets to his core, but, very, very lucky in that regard. So, I just try to, when it comes to my parents, just try and be there, use them as my example.
I like that. I like that. What's the best part of working here at Notre Dame?
You're going to hear people, I would think, respond the same way to that question. And it's 100% in mind. It's the people. It's the people that day in and day out that I get to work with. And, from the top folks down, the relationships that I've been able to build with some of the folks that are here working in the main building, but working in other parts of this campus, are ones that I value greatly. And it's a rarity to work at a place like this, where you have such high caliber folks doing their day in and day jobs to the best of their abilities. Every job on this campus. I remember we had a visit from, at the time, Governor Mike Pence. And I met him down just outside the main building, and he had a 30-minute meeting with Father Jenkins. Father was president of the university at the time. And the governor had, of course, his detail folks with him. And as soon as he walked into the main building, Governor Pence had made reference how he just loves coming into the main building. It's so beautiful. And he just loves to soak it in. And it's just a gorgeous building to have here in our state. They met, Father John and he met, and 30 minutes came and went, and 45 minutes came and went, and we're now at an hour. And his detail guys are all looking at me like, he's got to go. He's got to get to his next meeting. And I'm like, guys, then you knock on the door. You interrupt him. I'm not interrupting him. And I'm not going to get in trouble, with my boss. And so about 5 minutes later, the door did open, and we were walking out. And as we were walking out, the detail guys to this day still rasp me about this. I knew that they were pressed. They had to get to someplace. But there was a gentleman, Jay, who was worked for Notre Dame, who was working cleaning the main building. And I stopped the governor and I said, hey, you mentioned to me, Governor, when we walked in, how beautiful this place is and how you enjoy coming to this building. And I said, this is the guy that makes this place so doggone beautiful. I mean, he works his tail off, making sure this place is clean every day, that when people come in, that they're in awe of this, just as you were. So the governor took a minute to shake Jay's hand and to thank him. Little did I know, Jay was related to Governor O'Bannon. And so the two of them start talking about Governor O'Bannon, and the detail guys are like, "You're killing me, Sexton. You're killing me." But it was just this great exchange of the governor and Jay. And I still see Jay still works here. I still see him working on the grounds of the university. And every time I see him, he just brings a smile to my face. He's just a wonderful human being that I feel, at least what he exemplifies to me, is somebody that loves his job.
Tim, can you tell me about any other organizations that you're involved in or involved with in your capacity, in your role, or personally?
Yeah, Natalie, that's a great question. And I've had the fortune through my career to work with a number of nonprofits and organizations here in the community. And I can honestly say we have some stellar organizations that are led by wonderful, wonderful people. I'm currently serving on the Community Foundation of St. Joseph's County with Rose Meisner as their president. And I've been involved with that organization for over 20 years now. And I can honestly say that the impact that they've had in this community, you look at the St. Joe County Public Library. That library, I honestly believe, would not be as beautiful it is today and as impactful in this community as it is today without the Community Foundation of St. Joe County. I also have the pleasure of serving on the Regional Development Authority. And that is the organization that when we're fortunate in our region to receive substantial state funding, whether it's regional cities or READY, this is the organization that actually makes the decision as to which projects are going to get funded in the region. And I'm thankful to serve with 4 other individuals on that particular board. I was appointed president of that board this past February, and it's a role that I take very, very serious. The impact that the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership and the RDA have had in this community is monumental.
Nice. Okay, is there anything else that we didn't ask you?
One of the things that you had asked about my family and even my broader family, I think they would all say he's the practical joker.
Who's that, you?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that's going to tease. He's the one that's going to play a practical joke. And I mentioned earlier that Lou Nani is a dear, dear friend of mine, and Lou and I go back 35 years now. And he's a practical joker as well. So when I started here at the university 16 years ago, we kind of had an understanding we were going to leave each other alone and we weren't going to play tricks on one another. And that lasted for about a month. And I think he was the one that actually made the first move. And I can't now remember what it was, but he was definitely he that broke the agreement. And so fast forward, it was a few years later, he had spoke to a group of community leaders. About 125 community leaders, and he killed it. You know, Lou's just so gifted in his ability to speak in front of an audience, and he had everybody in tears, for God's sakes. I mean, he did a great job. Well, we asked everybody to fill out an evaluation at the end, and of course, you would imagine, Natalie, he just received glowing reviews. And I was asked to review the feedback before we sent it over to Lou. And I thought, you know what? This is just a little too glowing. So about every 7th or 8th comment, I put my own comment in there. And as you can imagine, Natalie, mine were not glowing. My comments were a little critical of Lou and his performance. But there was maybe out of 100 comments, there maybe was 7 or 8 that were just critical. I criticized his hair. I criticized that he didn't wear a tie. I mean, I just nailing him on a couple of things. What do you think he focused on? When he got that feedback, the first thing he was, somebody doesn't like me in there, you know? Look at this comment. Look at this. Like, look at all the glowing comments in there. Well, finally, his assistant divulged that, you know, Tim might have had a little part in that evaluation.
That's
at the end of it. Oh, he came down here. He was furious. It had kept him up. I let 24 hours go by. It had kept him up that night. He was so fixated on who was so mad at him or who didn't like him in the audience. So, he's gotten me. I'm not going to share, but he's gotten me a number of times too.
Did he get you back for that?
Oh, yes. And then some. Oh, yes. And again, we have to have fun at work. You know, we got to be appropriate, but we do. Yeah, we have to. That's part of, you know, I think having a good work environment and why this place is special too. We can have fun.
Smiling is fun, right?
It is. Yes, it is. And then please don't put that in the podcast, that story, because it'll only refire him to get me more.
No. That's the best. So Tim, this has been a lot of fun doing this podcast with you. I really appreciate it. It's just a blessing to be able to sit here and talk about your career and your family and your work and your friendships. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. This time has been very enjoyable, and I appreciate everything you do here on campus. And I do thank Michael Weens here, your partner in crime, making sure that this podcast is a huge and continued success.
We'll be back next time with more news and stories by and for Notre Dame employees. I'm Natalie Davis Miller. Thanks for listening to NDWorks.